again, I really appreciate John pitching in for us for the last couple weeks. In a nutshell, what did we take away from the last 2 weeks? Key messages.
Last week was baptism.
Yeah, what about it?
You need to do it.
Okay, why do we need to do it? I heard people argue that's a work.
They argue that.
What do you think?
No, I don't think it's a work.
It is work. God's work.
God's work. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. Why is baptism essential? Why is that an important part of what we do and who we are?
It's the marriage ceremony.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Contract with God.
Contract with God. Yeah.
You get into his death, burial, and resurrection.
We are reenacting, metaphorically dying putting our old self away and starting over again. There's power in the. Now God infused water and through doing His work over the centuries. I'm sure. Maybe you talk a bit about that.
Puts us in the body and
Puts us in the.
gives us our identity.
Yeah, and there's something about burying yourself. This whole idea of dying, putting yourself away, being reborn anew, starting anew. It's a significant, serious act, isn't it?
And that's where spiritual surgery takes place. The
Oh, okay.
old person is cut away, and
Yeah.
a new one comes out of the water.
Excellent, good stuff. Sounds like John knows what he's talking about when he brings this baptism message to you guys. He's done it before. So we're going to talk today about leadership in the Lord's church. We're going to start looking at some structural identities of the church. We've been added to the church through baptism. We've joined the calling out by accepting who the Lord in heaven is, and that His Son walked this earth. We've accepted all that. We've been added to the number. And so let's start to look at now how the church kind of functions and how it's organized a little bit. We're going to have some fun with this, okay? I think it's fun. If you want, let's turn to Acts 11. We're going to go to Acts 11, starting in verse 27. Acts 11. Acts 11. As you're looking at the Gospels, you're seeing Christ on earth, His example, His teachings. And then as you get in the book of Acts, what starts to happen in Acts? What's happening? If you could just summarize the book of Acts to somebody, how would you summarize it?
Beginning of the church.
Beginning of the church. We see the church starting its existence, right? We see struggles, we see persecution, we see behaviors of the body, maybe the leadership. We see the church gaining root, right, and growing and blossoming. So it's an important book for us to study as we think about the first century church. So would somebody please read Acts 11, 27 through the end of the chapter there, please?
I'll read.
Yeah.
And in these days, prophets came from Jerusalem to Antioch. Then one of them, named Agabus, stood up and showed by the Spirit that there was going to be a great famine throughout all the world, which also happened in the days of Claudius Caesar. Then the disciples, each according to his ability, determined to send relief to the brethren dwelling in Judea. This they also did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So there was been foretold there was going to be a famine in the land. A lot of believers in this area. And what did the other believers around do? They said, we got to care for these people. We got to provide for them. Help our brothers and sisters out down here in Judea. So they obviously gathered up some means and some. Maybe there were some funds there. Maybe there were some supplies that were gathered up. And what did they do with these supplies?
Send it to the elders.
Send it to who?
Elders.
Who's that? Who is that? That's what we're going to look at today. Who did they send the stuff to? To the elders. It's very interesting. So we know that very early in the church here, there were some people in some kind of a responsible position down here in Judea. Okay, so we know that. We see that. That word elder, let's break that word down a little bit. There's a Greek word, presbyteros. That's the word that the Greek writer uses there. That word, if you break that word down, what it means, literally translated, it means senior, older. That's what that word means. Elder. We get the word elderly, senior from that concept, okay? Just saying it, there are seniors there. Now, in my household, I am presbyteros. That's what that means, right? In my team that I manage, I am presbyteros. What's that mean? No, what's it mean? What's it mean? What's it literally mean? What's it translated mean? I'm presbyteros in my home.
Leader?
No?
You're the
What do you think this word means?
Elder.
It means I'm the senior. I'm the oldest guy. I'm the older. I'm the more experienced, right? More seasoned, right? I'm older than my children. I'm older than my spouse. I'm older than the people I hire, generally speaking, right? I am presbyteros. That's what that means. Now, what comes with that?
Responsibility.
Well, some responsibility, but why would we give someone who's presbyteros responsibility? Why? What comes with wisdom? Years experience. I've seen some things. Seasoned, not a, you ever turn greenhorn? What's that mean? Yeah, new. Raw, hasn't seen enough yet to be thinking, hey, we should probably give this person some heavy responsibility. I'm going to give responsibility to those who are presbyteros.
Trustworthy.
So they sent it to
Yes. The elders.
people who were the seasoned. If I'm just going to send a bunch of supplies down to Judea and I just send it to whomever down there, what could possibly happen?
Anything.
Anything, right? Oh, hey, thank you, appreciate that. I'll keep some of that for my family, and I'll hand some over to my brother over here. And so, wait a minute, we send it to those that are presbyteros. Okay, that's what that's telling us. Now, this word elder shows up several times. There's a couple of interesting things about this. When we're talking about those that are presbyteros in the Lord's church, this word is always plural. Always plural. The only time it's never plural is if we're saying, if you bring an accusation against someone who is presbyteros, then it's singular there. Right? Saying, if you go to accuse an elder of something, it's an elder. Notice it's not the elder. It still kind of has a plural connotation to it. So when you read this, we always see that, number one, these people who are leaders in the church seem to be presbyteros. They seem to be senior, older, more experienced. And there's not just one of them. That's what we kind of get from that concept. So as we read, we can read all through Acts and into the later epistles talking about this concept of the senior people, the presbyteros. Those are the concepts we have. This is also a masculine form. Okay? Masculine. This is a masculine form. If there is a feminine version of this, what do you think the feminine version of this is? Presbytera.
Yeah.
Presbytera. Presbyteros, when you see the os, that's masculine. Presbytera is feminine. Now, they have a habit, kind of like what English does, that if it's a multiple gender, they'll use the masculine. That's what Greek does. We do the same thing. The word mankind. Spanish, French does the same thing. If it's plural, you always use the masculine form. So that's not uncommon. Okay, but just put a pin in that. Just know just put a pin in that concept. We're going to look back at that here in a few minutes. Any thoughts about this idea that people that are responsible in the church are presbyteros? Any thoughts about that?
Well, it's kind of like we don't let people be president until they're 35 or older.
That's a great example, yeah.
Because we just need some time.
Yeah. I mean, we have a resume that shows our experience, right? I mean, it's showing what we've been through, what roles we've had, what we've done. And we kind of interpret that there's probably going to be some learning that took place over that time. I made some mistakes, I had some successes, and stubbed my toe a couple times, and through that, it makes the person a little bit more well-rounded, and the word wisdom is a good one, right? We can kind of trust that, generally speaking, we're more likely to have wisdom being shown if somebody is presbyteros.
Right.
Yes, sir.
This is how they came up with the name Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, what's this look like?
That was a religious denomination that decided they're going to put their emphasis on eldership.
If you look at the history of the Presbyterian Church, pretty good spot. It's based on a plurality of presbyters. Presbyters are the senior leaders, right, in the church. So, yeah, the term Presbyterian comes from that. So we see this word coming up many times. You know, there's this. Remember, we're going to stick in the New Testament because if you go to the Old Testament, the word elder shows up a lot in your translation as well, but it's coming from a Hebrew word. So this is staying in the New Testament. If you look through the Gospels, this term elder shows up quite a bit. In fact, it's generally kind of in a little bit of a not the greatest situations. It's where the elders, the leaders, the older leaders of the church were kind of giving the apostles of Jesus a little bit of a hard time, right? But it talks a lot about the elders. And then as you go into the Christ church being formed, you see this elder role, this concept of having senior leaders continue on and becomes the practice of the church. Have your leadership entrusted in people who are presbyteros. So it's a very important concept. Yes, sir, John.
Thought just came up that I never thought of till just now, but
Yeah.
the qualifications for the elders.
Hang on there. Can you hold that? Can you
Yes,
hold
I
that
will.
thought? Hold
Okay.
that thought about 20 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, hang on. We're gonna get, hang tight on that. Yeah. You know where I'm going with that, so I put a pin in that. Yeah, hang on to that. What other concepts, what other thoughts do we, when we think about leaders in the Lord's church, what else do we hear and read about? What are some of the names that we use for our leaders in the church?
Servants,
We just had elder.
Pastors.
Shepherds.
Okay, I'm going to write, I'm going to heard a couple pastors. Okay, I'm going to write that down here. I'm going to use this, say shepherd. Okay, deacons. I think I heard servant.
Overseer.
Overseer.
Minister.
Minister.
Bishop.
Bishop. Okay. Gonna make some demarcations here. Let's look at this center bunch. We've talked about elder. This is presbyteros, right? And what does presbyteros mean?
Elder.
Senior,
Senior.
right? Overseer, bishop. We've talked a little bit about translations. Anybody use a King James? Anybody big into the King James? Okay. There's an interesting. The King James is the. They did some interesting things. If you think about the history of the King James a little bit, they were coming out of. Remember, it was early in the non-Catholic journey for Christians, right? And that translation was made because it was acceptable to a lot of people in the Christian world at that time. So they had to make some compromises in that we may or may not be totally comfortable with today. Have you ever had an argument with somebody about Easter and you said, hey, the word Easter doesn't even show up in the Bible? You ever had that conversation? It actually does. The King James, I think it's Acts 30. Instead of calling it Passover, we use the term Easter. Did you know that? NIV, NASB, ESV changed that. Passover is the correct word. But those King James translators decided to use the word Easter there for some reason. Probably to keep peace.
Just like baptism.
Probably to keep peace. Okay, so now, they did a similar thing here. The King James tends to use the word bishop instead of overseer. But it comes from the same word. So these two things here come from this word episkopos.
Episcopalian church.
Episcopalian church. Yeah, you see where these denominations get their names? Episkopos. Epi, anybody know what epi means?
Around.
Over, around, over really. Kopos, watcher. Over, watcher. Epidermis, epidural, over.
Yeah.
Over, watcher. Overseer. It's probably a better translation. Now, for some reason, the King James uses this word. In fact, if you do any kind of a Google or a search in the King James in a concordance for the word overseer, you won't find it. Conversely, if you do a search for bishop in the NIV, you won't find it. So where the word episkopos was used, the NIV, the New American Standard, ESV will use the word overseer. The King James will tend to use the word bishop. So the word bishop really doesn't mean anything to us other than the fact that it's a religious term, right? It's it has a legacy in probably the Catholic Church, right? That concept. So those translators said, if you want to be, we're gonna take episcopos and call it bishop. Okay? So what we know is basically these two terms essentially mean the same thing. They mean the same thing. But the literal translation of episcopos, the word that's used in the New Testament is overseer, overwatcher. All right? A couple other concepts. These things here all are the same. They refer to the same role. Okay? So you've got presbyteros. We know that this role should be senior. We know that this role should be an overseer, should be overwatching. We know this role should be shepherding. We're going to break that down in a second. These are all different concepts. I think of like my role that I've had in business over the years. In my job, I have many hats that I wear in that. You ever seen something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or different names you might refer to me by. Like my team might call me boss. They might call me manager. They might call me supervisor, leader.
The man.
Yeah, that's right. So what I'm saying is you've got these different concepts embedded in a job, in a role, right? Different ways of labeling it, but it's the same role. Just like you have here, different ways of labeling it, or in this case, it's different qualities. Senior, overseer, shepherding. When you say shepherding and maybe overseer are different concepts, aren't they? Yes, sir.
I got a question. Is bishops, I've never heard of bishops in the churches of Christ.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, again, it depends on the translation.
All right.
So
It's
let's,
usually the,
yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a peek. So
it's usually the Catholic Church.
say it again.
Right. It's usually the Catholic Church.
So let's go. Anybody have a King James? King
Yeah.
James translation?
Yeah.
Let's go to 1 Timothy 3:1.
Where's that at?
1 Timothy 3:1. Everybody turn to 1 Timothy 3. Let's just all go there together.
What version do you use?
It doesn't matter. Everybody go to 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 3. Let's all go to 1 Timothy 3.
You want me to read it from the King James?
King James, yeah, give me the King James.
Okay, it says, let me see my glasses. It says, there is a true saying, if a man desire the work of a bishop, he desireth a good work.
Yeah, there you go. King James. If anyone desires the work of a bishop, he desireth a good work. That word in the Greek right there is episkopos. Okay? So you could argue that that's probably not the truest translation. And the King James was supposed to be a word for word. But they took this word, they carried it over from the Latin Vulgate, probably, which was the Roman Catholic Bible, and just took that word and put it in there. Now imagine, if you're trying to make a translation that everybody can live with and everybody's good with, you probably did that to keep peace. That's my
Yeah.
2 cents. Just like you did with the word Easter. You probably did it to keep peace, all right? But let's look at, who's got another translation? Maybe just-
NIV.
Yeah, read the NIV for me. First
Here is a
Timothy.
trustworthy saying, if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, he desires a noble task.
Yeah. So overseer is the better word. It's a direct translation of that word, but the word bishop is just like a, okay.
A bad stand-in.
It's almost like a proper noun that you said just means that.
Yeah.
So a word bishop means to oversee, an overseer. That's what it means. So it's the same thing. Does that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed here, I got like a few different types of Bibles on my phone.
Mhm.
But the main one that I look at is the Bible Hub. And the Bible Hub have every translation that they have.
Mhm.
And I noticed that the New King James Version is different
Mm-hmm. What's it used there?
from the,
Does it use overseer or is it?
yeah,
Bishop.
you said 1 Timothy 3?
1 Timothy 3:1.
Okay.
You're kind of shocked that changed. Did it change it?
So this one is,
What's New King James say for that?
the New King James,
Bishop.
Said- it
says
says
bishop.
bishop, but
Yeah, it's bishop.
yeah, okay, it just says if a man desire, okay,
Yeah,
desire the position of a bishop.
So it's using that word bishop as almost like a proper noun to describe someone who's an overseer. So a bishop's an overseer. So our elders are not only senior, they are also bishops, they are overseer. Those words are all interchangeable.
So it's capitalized in New King James as a proper noun, and the overseer is not capitalized.
Yeah.
So they're talking about, you're right, like a person,
Yeah.
it's a good job.
It's a name, it's a label.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
A bishop has the sense of a political position, whereas overseer is a boss over a business.
It's got that vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to find the same thing about another word here in a minute. But yeah. So I just want you to understand, they all mean the same. They all refer to the same role. They're different attributes of the same role, right? When you say if somebody's a manager of a team, there's a leadership role. Lead me, hey guys, follow me, do things I'll set the example. There's that attribute to it. Then there's a supervising attribute. Hey, I'm going to set up schedules, and I'm going to make sure, I'm going to train you, I'm going to give you feedback, or supervising attributes, right? Is that true?
He's over the manager.
Yeah, there's the manager role, which might do the hiring and firing, the different attributes of that role. So you see here different attributes of this role of a leader in the church.
It's real quick in 1 Peter 5 verses 1 through 3. It gives you the flavors here. Peter says,
Yeah.
I'm a fellow elder. He says, serve as an overseer and shepherd the flock. So all three of those are that flavor is here.
Exactly right, yeah. And then we have this word here. Well, here's where I'm going to say a lot of maybe confusion or I don't know if the word confusion is right, but we've gone a lot of different directions with this word pastor right here. Okay? What do you think? Now, these two words come from the same Greek word, poimen. Whenever you see the word poimen in the New Testament, it is always translated as shepherd, except one place. And I want to have a chat with the guy who decided to do that 400 years ago. At one place, it was translated as pastor. Only in one place. Originally translated. Now, so we have to say, what does that mean? So, but where this word was used, the Greek says poimen. But everywhere else, that word is translated as shepherd. That's Ephesians 4:11. Let's go ahead and turn there. Ephesians 4:11. Actually, let's go back to 9. Because I think it's good to have some context here, what this is saying. I think if you just start in verse 11, I've heard people interpret this a little, I'm not sure that's where I go. So if you start at 9, it gives you some ramp up.
It's okay.
Okay? I'm going to read this here. This is Ephesians 4, verse 9. In saying, he ascended, what does it mean but that he has also descended into the lower reaches of the earth? He who descended is the one who also ascended far above all the heavens, that he might fill all things. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers. Does your verse 11 say something different there?
NIV says pastor.
Pastor.
Pastors.
Yeah. What's the King James say there?
The New King James says pastor.
I believe the Old King James says pastor as well. Yes. So the Old King James, verse 11 says, and he gave some apostles and some prophets, some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers. Again, plural. That's important. It's always plural. All right? Same thing. That word pastors or shepherds, whatever your translation says, the word in Greek, the original word that was written was poimen. It's plural. Okay? So this word means shepherd. If you think of a shepherd, what do you think about? What comes to mind when you think of the word shepherd?
Sheep herder.
Herding?
Protecting.
Protecting?
Yeah.
I think of like, you're wandering off, bring back. I'm trying to keep it in a big group because if the group doesn't stay together, what happens? If I don't shepherd everybody, if I just forget about this bunch over here and I just worry about this bunch, what happens to that bunch?
They die.
They be picked on. They go over a cliff. Wolves get them. They create their own craziness over here, right? So I kind of go, everybody stay together. Everybody stay together. Hey, come on, back over here. Come on, stay with me, right? And sometimes I have to whack off a wolf, right? Or go get somebody out of a tree, or get somebody off a cliff ledge.
Or you might have
Right.
to use a switch to keep them in
I have to go,
line.
right? I mean, so this idea of shepherding is about kind of herding, or keeping everybody together, protecting.
I like that word better.
Yeah.
Because they also do their food, they find food and water for them, so
Yeah.
shepherds are protecting that flock.
Yeah. So we'll see this word used quite a bit. This word poimen is used quite a bit. Now, I think if you're going to rank, this is my 2 cents. From a quantity usage standpoint, elder seems to be used the most in reference to the role.
Right.
Okay? Then overseer, then shepherd. That tends to be kind of the way. Now, shepherd's used a bunch, but it's not necessarily talking about the role, the leadership role. Right? It refers to Jesus as a shepherd.
Talking about
Shepherd your souls.
a real shepherd.
Yeah, so you'll see this word used a lot, but in reference to it's only used a couple times, a few times. Overseer is used, we'll see that when it talks about the qualifications, used a lot. But then it talks about the elders doing this function of the church. So it seems like, I would interpret that to say, yeah, it's like we've got this group that it's really important to kind of emphasize their task. I think about in a team, again, in business, I shouldn't have to do this a lot, but every once in a while I have to. And I shouldn't have to do this a whole lot, but every once in a while I have to. I do that a lot. I share experience, I share, insight, wisdom, tell stories. I do that a lot in my life, right? Just with my children or with the people I work with, right? But I don't crack skulls very often. Who does this very often? Who does supervisory stuff? And that's kind of like, it's necessary, but I don't do it. And I shouldn't have, if I lead well, I don't have to worry about them wandering off too much, right? Thoughts about that? Any thought?
One other thing,
Yes, sir.
back in those times, that they had lots of shepherds, and they had their own little flock, so each shepherd had to know which sheep was theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know your sheep intimately? Can you recognize them? Or are they all confused with some other group? So there's something important about that, isn't there? That the leaders in the church should know who's here, who the people are, should have some intimate contact with them.
Their flock.
Yeah, that's right.
All of them their flock.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just thinking about something what he just said, and it's almost like the opposite of what he said, that the sheep would know the master's voice.
Right. Yeah. Well, it should be otherwise the opposite direction too. The shepherds in the Lord's church should know the flock. The flock should recognize the shepherds.
Right.
Not that you're wearing a name tag or anything, but I should see who are the senior leaders here. Who's providing oversight and direction. Who's providing the shepherding activity. I should recognize who those people are. Sure. Right? Nothing wrong with that. Yes.
I've never seen it this way. I've always thought that Jesus was or God was our shepherd. I've never seen it this way.
Yeah. So, there was lots that baked into that, the idea that, we have, I think Peter refers to Christ as the good shepherd, right? The high priest. We've got some interchangeable concepts here. But, we obviously see that this shepherding concept, here in Ephesians 4, it talks about he gave some, in other words, he's talking about the church here. He gave some apostles, right? Did we get apostles?
No.
Yeah, the first church got apostles, and fortunately they captured the thoughts for us, but the apostles necessarily weren't given to us, right? Were we given prophets?
No, not real ones.
Yeah, so they were given prophets to perform a task. Did we get evangelists?
Yes.
Yeah. We need evangelists, right? We don't need apostles right now because we have the teachings and the writings, and we have shepherds and ministers and evangelists to help us understand it and guide us along, right? Did we get some pastors? Were we given shepherds?
We chose them.
No, are we given shepherds though? Are they provided for us?
Yes.
Yeah. Are we provided teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see this idea that, but then verse 12, for the perfecting of the saints. So he gave some, these different things, for perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ. So we see the role of these different peoples, teachers, evangelists, shepherds, are given to us for perfection, rather than just being off on our own, just wild, crazy groups, going, figuring out whatever we want to do and making up, right? It's part of this idea of just like teaching and ministering is given to us to achieve perfection. Thoughts about that?
Well, we're being the body. We're being his body by all those actions, all those roles.
Yeah. And I think the key takeaway here is that these all refer to the same role. They all refer to the same thing. You can refer to someone as a leader in the Lord's church with any one of these terms, and it applies, right? I always look at it like, what are they doing right now? You know, when there's sometimes they'll do overseeing terms, sometimes they'll do elderly functions, sometimes they'll do shepherd and pastor. Where's this term pastor too? Where'd that come from? Like, what is this word? What's the origins of that? Does that look familiar to anybody? Pastor. Look familiar?
Looks like a
Pastoral.
pasture, like
Pastures.
P-U-R-E.
Who's in the pasture?
Like a pasture?
Yeah, what's out in the pasture? The sheep
Yeah.
are out in the pasture. So there's some pastoral concept. That's why this term pastor was used here, but it's interchangeable with the word shepherd. This probably has a Latin origin to it. I don't know the origins of that. But somehow, that has gotten hijacked. I would say in the last 100 years, I'm going to go out on a limb here, to mean a lot more in the Christian world than what it originally means. What originally was intended. We're going to look at that here in a second. If we agree that all of these refer to the same thing, the same role, then I'm going to make it a statement that this has been hijacked. Okay, and we're going to see why in a minute here.
Elevated above those.
Now, if you're going to say we're going to take that out, and this doesn't mean the same, well then make that argument. But I think what we see here, especially in Ephesians 4, where it looks like it's not duplicating anything. It's saying out apostles, prophets, evangelists, teachers, shepherds, right? So it looks like it's, and if we look at the other uses of the word shepherd, poimen, it's talking about a leader in the church. So these are all referring to the same person, the same role. Yeah?
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
So in King James, they use that word in place of, sorry.
It used
Yeah,
bishop.
bishop. No, I'm
It
on.
used pastor as well.
Yeah, my brain just skipped track.
Yeah, the King James used pastor, but again, some later translations have changed that to go back to what poimen means shepherd. Let's use that
Shepherd.
term. Let's translate
That's a
that term.
better.
Yeah, so I'll just give you 3 examples of where the King James kind of used some colloquialisms from its age that we probably would not use today. Pastor, bishop, Easter, right? I see why they did it. They probably did it to keep peace, right? If you look at that, I think it's, just for giggles here, I'm pretty sure it's, actually, let's let me check real quick.
In most churches too, the elders are disappeared. They don't even exist.
No, Acts 12. Go to Acts 12, verse 4. I think it's good to be aware of this kind of stuff, in case you ever get yourself pulled into this. Acts 12, verse 4. Somebody have like an NIV?
I have an invite. Acts 12?
Acts 12, verse
Verse
4.
4. After arresting him, is that it?
Yeah, this is James you're talking
He put
about.
him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover.
Passover. That's the correct translation. King James says after Easter.
Oh.
That's very interesting.
You think King James thing?
King James.
The New King James says pastor.
Yeah, they changed it to New King James. So you can see there's something out. It's like, if you read the context of this is about Herod killing James, brother of John. And if you read back a little bit, it says he laid his hands on him, killed James, brother of John, and because he saw it pleased who?
The Jews.
The Jews. It didn't please the Christians. It pleased the Jews. He proceeded further to take Peter also, right? And when he had apprehended him, Peter, he put him in prison, delivered him, intending after, who's he trying to please?
The Jews.
The Jews, after Passover. Right? So there's just an example where it's going to be aware that in some of these early translations like that, they use these terms that kind of had a, there were reasons to use those terms that we wouldn't use today. The correct translation of that is Passover. The correct translation of this is overseer. The correct translation of that is shepherd. But these terms are synonymous. That's the
I have a question.
yes.
So where does this word come from? Archbishop.
Archbishop,
Archbishop.
high,
Yeah.
archbishop,
Yeah.
high bishop.
Because I'm checking, it's not in the Bible.
No, that's not.
No.
Yeah, it's not in the
But
Bible.
it comes from this idea that there's a bishop over bishops.
Yeah. You know the history about it?
No,
How it was created?
I
I don't know.
I'm sure the Catholic Church,
I'm just
in their
curious.
structure,
Right.
I'm just curious.
yeah, had this concept of archbishop, which is
Yeah.
a high-level bishop, yeah. But there's no reading of that I've ever found, where it's a bishop that's over other bishops or higher than others, so, yeah. Yes, ma'am?
I don't know who said it, but what I know is the sister just said that, the way they have these titles now, it's like it's above what originated.
Say that again?
I said, one of the sisters said earlier, that you know how to have bishop and all that, they using it higher than what it's, you know,
Well, yes.
or a higher office or a higher title than what God had intended for the works of the church.
Yeah, I think they applied some labels to it
Right.
that maybe weren't intended. But yeah, we're going to look at more and more what it's intended to do and what their qualifications are. So
Right.
we can deduce some things from that. So let's go back to 1 Timothy 3. I'm going to switch my translation back to my trusted ESV. You see why we talked about this a few weeks ago too. I'm going to share a thought. It's a good idea when you're studying to have at least 2 translations at your fingertips, and then a tiebreaker. And a tiebreaker could be like maybe an interlinear or something like that. But have a word for word, like a King James or a New American Standard, something like that. And have a thought for thought, maybe an NIV, something like that. And then have like a tiebreaker. Because this is the kind of stuff you can run into. You'll go, whoa, what's that? What's it telling me? If it doesn't click right, then look over the other one and see what it says and then compare it to. And have a concordance or something that you go look at the Greek word. What's the Greek word tell you? So I think that's just a really good way to study. 1 Timothy 3. So I have a little header here that says qualifications for overseers. Anybody have something like that in their Bible?
Overseers and deacons is what my.
Okay. Yeah. So we've agreed here, or we've established that these terms refer to the same role, just different terms for the same role, like manager, supervisor, boss, leader. Different terms for the same role, different terms for the same role. That's what this is talking about. All right, so it's saying here, the saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, here's my say bishop, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer, so again, same role. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach. What does that mean? Anybody say blameless?
That can be though.
Mine said above reproach.
Beyond
blameless.
reproach.
Above reproach.
Above, okay.
Above reproach. Anybody say blameless or anything like that in there?
Yes.
Yeah. So in other words, let's get guys who aren't going to bring a bad history baggage with them. That's basically what that's about. Yeah, I mean, people who are thought well of.
No outstanding accusations.
Yeah. I mean, let people who are you know, of high integrity, you know, or at least above average integrity. Can you say that, Ray?
But it says an overseer must not give people a reason to criticize him.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Don't right reasons to criticize. If we come in somebody with a bunch of accusations against them, doesn't that now the church brings that on? Have you ever seen this before, where someone out there who's a TV evangelist or somebody and or some leader of church, and they all of a sudden have some legal problems? It reflects on an entire body, doesn't it? Right. So we're saying if we find guys who are a little bit higher character, we're probably gonna more than likely avoid that kind of stuff. So it's yeah. The husband of one wife.
Back then they had multiple wives.
Yeah, may have. So now a little bit of Greek history here. A little bit of Greek. I think it's very interesting to know this. That word husband is the same Greek word that can be translated to be man. They didn't have a separate word for husband, just like they didn't have a separate word for wife. The word woman and the word wife were the same.